This is Harrison Smith, and you are watching the 13th Wolfman.
Hey everyone, I'm the 13th Wolfman. You know what? I got the man with me that has made Camp Dread, 6 Degrees of Hell, and The Fields. Harrison Smith. Welcome to Sit Down, Harrison.
Thank you, Wolfman, very much. It's really nice to be here. I've been hearing so much about this show, and I've seen your show, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we follow each other on Twitter.
That's
You
right.
know, so I know you know about it, and we've had your coworker on,
Felissa,
Felissa.
I'm so sorry.
She's a sweetheart.
She is a sweetheart. She is also one of the most vivacious and fun people I've ever known.
So along with writing and directing, you are also a I want to get the title right, but you're like a
Mhm.
co-chairperson with Kuroko.
That's correct. It's a co-head of the
Co-head.
independent genre division of the company. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So what's that like?
It's interesting. Everybody thinks that basically the company is the same as it was in the 80s. I mean, that was the company that brought you Rambo and the Terminator and Total Recall and Basic Instinct and all of those things. It's a different company now. They're getting up and going. They're kind of flexing their muscles and getting everything set. And so it's been very interesting to watch a company reform because as we were talking about earlier, you and I come from that decade when
Yeah.
that company. I mean, the big C being etched by a laser on the screen meant you
Yeah.
were in store for a really big ride. And this time around, it's not that they're not planning big rides. It's just you're seeing that was basically a different Carolco. Now it's all new. They're forming a new brand, putting things together and putting things into place. So it's an interesting process to watch.
Yeah. I was under the impression that the company died in the mid '90s.
It did. Yeah, the
Okay.
company did die. It did. The film that always gets the credit with finishing it off is Cutthroat Island, and
The
yeah,
Gina Davis,
the
Rennie
Gina
Harlan
Davis
film.
film. Yep, the Rennie Harlan directed Gina Davis Matthew Modine movie, and they credit that with finishing it off. There's a great Den of Geek article out there. I have it bookmarked on my computer, but I can send it to you. That gives
Okay.
a really accurate and well done. I'm a big fan of Den of Geek. I think they publish really good articles, and they're always well written. And they did a really good chronology of the rise and fall of the previous incarnation of Carolco. So I thought that was interesting.
Hmm. So then they're rising from the ashes as the phoenix does. And are we? Is there any chance? I mean, that we will see the laser etched C back in the? Are they going to go with a new logo?
I don't know if they've kept the old logo from before, and I have that on my business cards, and they is hovering in Times Square even as we speak. And they've redesigned the symbol a little bit. They've changed some of the coloring. It's more of a steel gray than it was black before. But in short, yeah, I think you're going to see that laser etching that big C back on the screen pretty soon.
Good, because that again, you and I are products of the '80s, late '70s, early
Yes.
'80s, and like you said, that's something that we remember seeing. I I'm with you. I would go to the theater. I would see the laser etching, and I'd be like, okay, I'm in for a ride.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. When you saw that, see, it was kind of like even as a kid, you remember the TriStar logo with the Pegasus horse that would come trotting out and
Yep.
flex its wings. I mean, those you were good, you were there to see something pretty good. I mean, TriStar has a pretty good track record. Um,
TriStar was good. Yeah.
yeah, so or the Orion. Remember the three stars would form the belt
They
and
spin and
spin. Yeah, and I always remember where the impression of that is. It's always, it's so great to see it with the opening of Caddyshack because you hear Kenny Loggins gearing up and the whole
oh
thing
yeah.
with I'm All Right and the O is spinning and leading us into, I mean, what a fun movie that was. So,
Well, so now getting away from. I don't want to get away from it. getting into your personal stuff, do you have anything you're working on?
Yeah, we're working on a film right now called Death House. It's being produced by Entertainment Factory, and that's basically Rick Finkelstein and Stephen Chase. They approached me back in January. I was at a screening for Zombie Killers in Los Angeles, and they came to me with this script that was written by Gunnar Hansen, and they liked it, but they wanted some fine-tuning on it. The script was older. They wanted it updated, and they brought the script to me. And I updated the script. I did a new pass over it. And we have that going into production. We're hoping to announce the official start of production in literally the next couple days. But we're officially in pre-production on that film. And it's got a lot of the names of the 80s and a lot of horror names, cameos. The big thing that I wanted to make sure of in writing the film is that it didn't turn into a dumb cameo movie. You know, it's not one of those where it's like a Scooby-Doo episode, like it's Batman and Robin. Like we're not doing that.
Right.
Some confusion that I've seen from other media has been that, you know, they heard that, you know, okay, Robert Englund's going to be in it and he's going to be Freddy Krueger. No, that's not happening.
I could have told you that already.
Right. But you'd be amazed how many people have been like, oh, so you're going to have Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers? It's like, I don't even think the entire budget of the film could cost licensing them for 5 minutes, let alone, you know, have them in a whole feature. No, the answer is no.
That's crazy. I mean, well, I know that Robert Englund was at one of the big conventions back your way. I think it was Horror Hound weekend in Indy. And he showed up in the Freddy makeup. And he's like, this is it. This is the last time you're ever going to see me in the Freddy makeup. You know, I mean, to do a convention. And he's not going to be in any of the Freddy movies, so, you know. So to think that that's what Robert's going to please.
And that's one of the things I've always, I know that some interviews have taken things out of context where I firmly feel that fans have an obligation as well, too, to be well-read and read up and understand a little bit about what they're talking about. The internet has so allowed anyone access to information and the ability to speak, like giving them their own little bully pulpit, that sometimes they say stuff that you're like, why are you saying these things? Why are you asking these things when a little research or a couple clicks would tell you that the answer is right here? So, I mean, you know, it's very tough, I'm sure, for you both to be doing your job, dealing with sometimes some of the things that you get in return, and you go, how did it ever get to this point? You know, like why am I receiving questions? And then people go, oh, well, you're against the fans. No, I'm not against any fans, but at least understand what you're talking about. I wrote an article in my cinema essays that I have on zombieapocalypse.net. And I wrote that fans have an obligation to be educated as well, too, and that they should demand far better of their popular culture than what they're being given. And they really should not be just broadcasting out to the world sometimes their ignorance. And I feel that, like, for example, a reviewer, I have no problem with people reviewing my work. That's not it. I mean, The Fields was trashed by the LA Times. But I understand and I respect it. I didn't agree with some of it, but some of it I went, okay, because, well, you're the LA Times. You have, you know, a history of critical essays and thinking, and you have data that you support your statements with. But when you get these vloggers that come on and go, I saw Zombie Killers and it's like The Walking Dead. No, it's not. Okay? And support at least what you're saying. And so if they have an obligation, if they're able to come out and say that, we should have, as filmmakers, an obligation to say, well, then get your crap straight. That's how I feel.
No, you're true. That's very true. I reviewed your movie, Camp Dread.
Yes.
And I remember saying my only complaint about the movie, and I think everyone has the same complaint, is that Danielle Harris wasn't in it long enough.
Right.
You know, but she's one of the busiest working actresses out there. So to get her for 10 minutes is better than to not get her at all.
And that's exactly how we felt, Wolfman. We have deleted footage of her. We shot a couple extra scenes with her, which would have taken her up to maybe 15, 20 minutes. but we needed to keep that film tight, and that was
Yeah.
the issue. And you saw the film, you know how she fits into it all, and
Yep.
we felt it less is more. That's what we went with.
Exactly. And like I said, that was my only complaint. I love
Yeah,
that
and
movie.
it's a good
That-
complaint. I wanted her in more too, but there's a trade-off.
but there's a lot of those independent actors and actresses. Robert Englund being one of them. He's in like tons of stuff.
Yeah,
So if you could get him to commit to 10 minutes for your film, you're doing good.
yep, I agree. Yeah, we were
So
really excited to get her and to have her, and she ended up becoming a personal friend out of it. So, I'm thankful for all of that, and just the honor, like you said, of having her, because she is so in demand. Just to get her for the time, we had her on set for basically 2 days,
I was gonna
and
say, yeah.
we got a lot out of her for 2 days.
So you say before we were talking, you said you got a lot of '80s people in this new movie. Can
Yes.
we? Can you give me some of the more obscure '80s people you got in there?
Well, I can. I'll tell you what. I will be happy to submit a list to you. Um,
Okay.
they're doing a final kind of tweaking of the list right now, and I just don't want to piss anybody off. So I can tell you that like people like Barbara Crampton,
Yes.
Dee Wallace, Robert Englund, a number of them are all in it. Uh,
Okay.
but there are others that are in negotiation. We have LOIs from a number of people, but some of them have not read the revised script yet. They may want their input. It's all the politics behind the scenes that I have no control of. So I just don't want this interview to go out and all of a sudden I'm getting a call
No.
from one
No.
of the
Hey.
agents going, why the hell did you say that? We were just about to do this. But I will be happy to submit a complete and total list of everybody that you're free to publish once that's all in the clear.
You know what? I just wanted to know what some of my favorite actors were doing. You don't have
I
to.
think you're going to be pleased.
Yeah. You said Barbara Crampton, so
Yeah, Barbara's wonderful.
yeah.
She read the script. She's excited. She loves the script. So we're very excited. She'll be playing Dr. Redmayne in the film.
Dr. Redby.
Dr. Redmayne, Dr. Karen Redmayne.
She's in two of my favorite '80s films, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so
Reanimator.
nice to interact with her on Twitter because she's just such a sweetheart.
Yeah, Reanimator and Chopping Mall,
Yeah.
the Jim Wynorski film.
From Beyond.
She's in From Beyond. Yeah, that one too.
Yeah.
I don't know why I forgot about that one. It's all coming back, right?
Right. It all comes back to you.
Yeah, that sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, it is going to be fun.
I definitely want to see that. That's great that you're doing that.
We're in negotiation with some current stars as well too that I'm going to be really excited about announcing once all of this locks. And I'm one. Abraham Lincoln once said that the chicken is the wisest animal of all because it doesn't crow until the egg is laid, and that's how I'll do it. When everything's locked in place, I will crow.
Very cool. Never heard that saying before, but that is very cool.
I wish I could come up with it, but it was Honest Abe.
You could have told me it was you, and I wouldn't have known.
Well, a Google search will show that it was Abraham Lincoln, I'm sure.
but getting back to the fans, I do agree with you 100% about the ones that, there are people that need to know. It's like I've been a horror fan since I was 5, so I know the guys on the Dorkening tease me about being the encyclopedia of knowledge, And it's just because I know I read all the stuff, I've heard all the stuff, and it all sticks. And you get some of the fans nowadays, they're just kind of like, well, I don't like that movie because it's like this movie. It's like, dude, it's nothing like that movie. Just because
Right.
it's a zombie film doesn't mean it's a Walking Dead or it's
Exactly.
like Romero was around before The Walking Dead.
And that's it. What you have, that's part of my series of essays that I'm going to be publishing as a book. That ironically, we have this incredible access to technology and information more than at any other time in human history, and nobody uses it. Like they just go with their preconceived attitude on things, and they
Or
think
what their friends
that's
said.
yeah, they think that's it. Like I was standing in line. I'll never forget. And this predates the internet, or at least the commercial use of the internet. I was standing in line for Scream, and I knew what it was about. And I said to my then wife at the time, I said, something came up where it came in, and I said, well, we all go a little mad sometimes. And this kid turned around in front of me and went, oh, so this is my third time seeing Scream, so you already saw it. You think you know the lines from the movie? I'm like, no, I was quoting Psycho. And the kid's like, dude, it's Scream. I'm like, just shut up and turn around. Just turn around, you moron. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm kind of complaining about, or I'm not even complaining. I'm offering solutions. Like, there was a moment in Jurassic World. I was standing in line for Jurassic World, first of all, and I got there late. And the first show, the 2D show, got sold out, so all that was left for the 3D. But the line was so long, we were going to get in there about 10 minutes late. And there were these college guys standing in front of me, and they were pissed. They were like, oh, we're going to miss the first 5-10 minutes. And I said, gentlemen, what do you think you're really going to miss? Let's guess here. Lots of aerial sweeping shots of the island, a big thing of the doors that say Jurassic Park, and that dun, 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 and then lots of people walking around wide-eyed staring in wonder at dinosaurs. Well, son of a gun if that isn't the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then I was watching the movie, and as it went on and on, there was a moment where I literally wanted to stand up in the theater and just shout to the entire theater, don't you idiots realize we're watching the same goddamn movie that we did 20 years ago? It's the same movie. Yes, I know it's a sequel. It's just a remake is all it is. And I mean, the thing is what? Now grossed over $6 billion, $6 billion. Yeah. I mean, Camp Dread hasn't, but, Jurassic World is doing it. So I guess I should shut up in some respects. But as an audience, we're kind of just accepting it. Like, there's nothing wrong with a Big Mac. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But when it becomes a permanent part of your diet and you don't know the difference between a Big Mac or processed food and cuisine, we've got a problem. And when people are watching this stuff and they think they're seeing something fresh for the first time, I mean, if you saw Jurassic World, which I'm sure you did, they literally copied scenes right out of the first film. They just redid them, And then you watch Terminator Genesis, where I'm almost like, how can you even get away with this? You're cannibalizing the best of the movies, and you're just restitching the scenes in, and you're just plopping them in. And to an audience, here's the bottom line. You have an audience that doesn't know, but here's the worst part. They don't want to know.
Yeah.
They don't want to know what came before. Anything that's over 2 years old is old. They don't want that. And, and attention spans have shrunk so much that, you look at this and you go, oh, my point is I'm too young to be sounding like the crabby old man going, get off my lawn. But that's what I sound like.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I agree 100% with it. I am going to say, though, I did love Jurassic World. I mean, yes, I understand.
It's a Big Mac.
I understand all that.
That's fine.
It's a great popcorn movie.
Absolutely. You want dinosaurs chasing people. There you go. And that's fine. But when it's passing itself off as something it is not, that's my problem. It is a total popcorn movie. It delivers exactly what you expect. You know where it's going to begin and you know where it's going to end. That's your average zombie movie. And look, I directed, wrote, and produced a zombie movie, and I didn't want to. When the investor came to me and said, do you want to make I want to make a zombie movie? And I'm like, no, you don't. And I spent an hour trying to talk this guy out of spending his money on this. And he goes, well, what's the problem? And I said, zombie movies are like NASCAR. You know where they begin, you know where they end, and you hope for a couple interesting crashes in the middle. That's all they are. With the exception of a handful of them, look, The Walking Dead, it's wonderfully made, it's beautifully written, it's wonderfully acted, the whole thing, there's nothing wrong with it. But every week it's the same thing. People argue, zombies attack. That's it.
Yeah, I actually quit watching I quit watching The Walking Dead after season 3. Yeah. I got bored with it.
I watched Z
Nation though.
I've only seen the first season. Right, you've seen everything you need to know. I've only seen the first season because then I got the zombie gig and I didn't want to contaminate my film with any. Because look, it's like making a shark movie. You're always going to be compared to Jaws, you know. So when I make zombie killers, of course they're either going to compare me to Romero or they're going to compare me to The Walking Dead, and not favorably. They will say you ripped it off. It's nowhere near as good as The Walking Dead. It's nowhere. Of course not. But when you start to ask a lot of these so-called fans about previous zombie films, they have no freaking clue. All they know is Norman Reedus and Lincoln. That's all they know. The big names on the show, and they know maybe about some other stuff. But overall, they don't understand what brought us to the point where a show like The Walking Dead can take place on television, whereas 20 years ago that couldn't happen. If you remember, 30 years ago they were tinkering with the idea of making Salem's Lot a television show, a weekly television show.
Yeah. Well, do you remember? Since we're about the same age, I remember a TV show on in the 70s. I don't know if you remember. It was called Cliffhanger.
I don't remember Cliffhanger.
And it was 3 different stories. There was a Western, there was a vampire story, and there was another story. And it would be told in 20-minute segments every week. You'd watch a little bit of the Western, a little bit of the vampire story, a little bit of the other one, and they would all end on a cliffhanger. Then you'd come back the next week and get filled in on what was going on. And that was the closest thing I could think of that was like, it was the vampire thing was really out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's horror is a hard thing to serialize. I mean, they're doing it with American Horror Story and quite inventively, if I may say. And The Walking Dead does do. I mean, I can't believe they're going on this long. I mean, I got to give credit. It's Gail Ann Hurd in the beginning, Frank Darabont. How are you going to screw that up? You got some of the finest people in the business working. Norman Reedus is great. You can't really fault. I'm not even faulting anything on it. I'm just saying that it's not original, and it's not the mecca of horror. And when you start asking people to look back, well, why would I want to look back? Why do I want to look at what came before that? It's like, well, then you're ignorant. Because if it wasn't for all the stuff that came before this, The Walking Dead wouldn't be on television right now. And again, I'm too young to be sounding like this, but the internet has created this has accelerated the instant gratification process where we just want what's now. And let's face it, a lot of these people, young kids, they're not even going to the movies anymore. They're downloading this stuff.
Yeah.
Jurassic World, despite whatever, it's a Big Mac or whatever, is meant to be seen on a big screen. It's not meant to be seen on this. It's not meant to be seen on this here. That's not what it's meant to be seen on. It's meant to be seen on a 40 by 20 screen. That's where it should be.
Yeah, so this month, Fathom Entertainment is doing they're playing movies in theaters that, they're like re-releasing for like 1 day or 2 days. And they're showing Psycho.
Yeah.
I've seen Psycho, but I've never seen Psycho in the theater. I'm going to that. I want to experience the 40 by 60 and how tall Norman Bates is and when grandma or when mother gets spun around, because I love the movie, but I want to see it in the big world.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean. Like, I think I just wrote about this, that I think the entertainment industry made a big mistake about 40 years ago in moving things into the direction of small screen television and, cable, and then also, home video, VHS and beta. Some movies should have been preserved that should be released every so often to different generations because they are big screen movies. Raiders of the Lost Ark should not be shown on a television. I don't care if you have a 70-inch, an 80-inch, 100-inch. It doesn't matter. Because they were big event movies. And
I see what you're saying, but man, when you fall in love with a movie,
I know that's the trade-off.
I fell in love with Back to the Future. To have not had Back to the Future in my life would suck.
Yeah,
I saw it 6 times the day it came out.
I agree. I know. I mean, I'm looking in the background of Leo right now, and there you go, same thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm a hypocrite. But I still feel that the problem that I feel is this, Wolfman. is that there's something missing of feeling special when you knew when you were a kid you were watching something special.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And
Yeah.
that's missing now. You know what I mean? Like now kids go, well, if I don't catch it here, I'll just download it on here. And if I don't catch it there, I'll get it on my Xbox. And I don't really care because I'll catch it somewhere. And like even the special effects, like seeing Harrison Ford hanging on the front of that truck in Raiders of the Lost Ark or dragging behind it. Like I'm a kid. I was in 8th grade and I'm going, oh my God, how did they do that? Well, now we know how they did it. They put him in front of a green screen and a couple computer clicks and ba-boom, there you go. Now we know how they did it. There's no element of danger in watching it anymore. Like even in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, when you see with that first shot of the gigantic Star Destroyer.
I ducked. I ducked in 1977 when that came over me. I ducked.
So did I. And I remember sitting in the theater and you knew from that opening shot, man, we're in for something good. This is different. But we don't have that anymore now. I mean, look at even the prequels. You know, in the first 5 minutes, we see, 1,000 ships in Revenge of the Sith or something like that. And we're like, what? And then worse yet, I remember going to see The Phantom Menace with my brother in 98. And we're sitting there in the theater. And the beginning, title crawl goes and it's going back the thing. And all of a sudden, about a paragraph into it, when I'm reading about trade federations and all this, I'm like, oh boy, we're in trouble. We're already in trouble. Like, I don't even care about this already, So by Attack of the Clones, I went with like 13 people. And I kind of felt like you're an abuse victim in those prequels where it's like, okay, I got beaten up on the first one, but then it says, no, come back. It's okay. It'll be okay now. So I went to the theater and I got it again. You know what I mean?
It's a Three Stooges event.
Right. And I'm sitting there in the theater and my then wife says to me, she looks over at me and she goes, it was when they were on the water planet. I don't even know what the planet's name is anymore. I don't freaking care. And I'm sitting there and she goes, okay, so the aliens on the water planet. I go, I don't effing know and I don't effing care. Like, when did you ever say that in Star Wars? Or when did you ever say that, especially in The Empire Strikes Back? Yeah. When did you say those words? I don't know and I don't care. I could care less about these prequels. And then I did it again. I went back for the third one. I went for Revenge of the Sith. And I got it again. And then when I'm sitting in that theater with the big no ending, and the theater is laughing uncontrollably, total unintentional laughter. And I turned to my buddy and I said to him, this is something that would show up on a Simpsons episode. And now we're watching this for real up on the screen. And people are laughing. That's what we ended up with. All three of the other films had nothing like that.
No, you're right. I mean, they're the big, as we refer to them, the big rubber monster editions. I mean, they were special. You look at them, you're like, I mean, even though they refused to release the big rubber monster editions, when you look back on them, you're like, oh, so what if Greedo looks kind of rubbery? And I didn't care. I didn't care that the land speeder, was actually a car.
You're right. Look, I'm sitting in a theater watching spaceships make noise in space. That doesn't happen. There's no fire in space. There's no explosions in space. But that's okay. I'm here for a good time. Just entertain me, man. That's all I want.
There's no fire and there's no explosions in our section of space. We don't know anything about where Alderaan and Tatooine are.
That's true. I'll give you that. All I know is that, like you said, you saw Back to the Future like 6 times. I sat in a grand old dilapidated movie theater and I saw Empire Strikes Back at least 5 times that summer. And I can't even classify myself as a Star Wars fan because, I mean, there's people that, really know their detail on it. All I know, it was a great story and I loved it and I ate it up like cotton candy. And that's what good movie making should do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't just see Back to the Future 6 times over that. I saw 6 times that day.
That's amazing. You've got me beat.
my buddy Fang and I just went to the theater, sat down, and they never kicked us out after each showing. So we just sat there and we saw every showing that day.
That's great. The closest I can come to that is I went to see Psycho 2, and I biked 8 miles to go see it, and I went to the mall, got in there with a bunch of friends, and I was firmly expecting to hate it. I was in 10th grade at the time, and everything that I had read on it up to that point. I mean, look at what we had at that point. You had People Magazine or The Star or, something like that. You didn't have a lot. Fangoria, maybe.
It was 22 years since the original.
Right. So I walked in, and I ended up loving it, and I walked right out, went to a payphone, called my folks and said, I'm staying for another show, bought a ticket, and went back into the next show. That's the closest I can come to you.
That's cool. Well, looking at the clock on the wall, it seems like we gotta get set up for the Dorks Live. Sure. I want to thank you for coming on, man. I want to have you back. I just want to chat with you. This is fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I like it. Yeah, thank you.
So you just tell people where they could find you and the websites, because you have a couple of websites that you want to plug, your Class 85 and...
Yeah, Class of 85, it's www.class85.com. And that's my company website where you can see all my films, updates on what's coming up, Death House, all of that stuff. You can find me on carolcopictures.com. And then I publish a series of essays on cynicism in filmmaking called Cinema, which is Cynema. And I am hosted by, I was asked to have my series move over to zombieapocalypse.net. So Kelly over there was very excited to bring me on board, and I'm very grateful for that.
And you have a Twitter if people want to follow you.
I do, yes. Yep. I think I'm Harrison Smith 85, I think, on Twitter.
I think that's what it is.
I believe I am. And I don't have a Facebook, but my movies have Facebook. So if you just look them up by title, they're there. Zombie Killers, 6 Degrees of Hell, The Fields, and Camp Dread.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime. I want to sit down and just yak with you some more.
Yeah, you're bringing back a lot of good memories.
Yeah, it's the same to you. Like I said, we're around the same age. So,
thank you.
With that, he's Harrison Smith. I'm the 13th Wolfman, and we're on the prowl.